Yay. Well, this is Abstract Random Brian, installment number 2. Namaste. Yes, I hear dead people. When I say that I was a reluctant psychic medium, I mean, it scared the shit out of me. I was raised to be a good little Christian boy in the church, and this woo-woo stuff had absolutely no place in our very narrow world paradigm. Then, in 1985, I died. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole life. Let me explain. I went on a European singing tour in 1982 to Scotland, England, Holland, Belgium. Well, we sang in the bus in Belgium as we passed through our way on to Germany, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. Needless to say, going to Europe was a real paradigm changer for this little country bumpkin. Along with all the extreme sensory overload, I picked up copper poisoning from the water. As you remember, there was a huge problem in the 70s and 80s with acid rain from the industrial European nations, killing forests and rendering almost all the lakes in Scandinavia lifeless. The copper was leached from the water pipes. I drank the water and voila, copper entered my system in near lethal levels. See, copper and zinc are supposed to balance each other in the body, but I had a zinc deficiency. So my little old body drew copper like there was no tomorrow. Now you can ask a medical professional about it because I'm not qualified to explain it. I just had it. The result was kidney, liver, and brain damage. I used to be a lot smarter than I am now. From what I understand, it was very close but not quite Wilson's disease. I had an induced paranoid schizophrenia, and the fear I felt was intense and paralyzing. It was friggin' horrible. No one knew back then what was wrong or how to treat it. Talk about being alone. Brian, it's all in your head. Or, just praying Jesus will make you all better. Really, not a help. Also, my perfect little Christian family and I had been estranged for quite a while over an affair a relative had with our pastor. Like, they would cram ultra-religious morality down my throat and out my ass, but hush, hush, something, at least according to their beliefs, this egregious. Well, anyway, they were no help. I was dying. I was alone. The situation degenerated, and I developed worsening symptoms. I had an asthma attack and stopped breathing. My spirit left my body, and I was dead. My purpose for sharing all of this is to thank the Creator for the best, most wonderful experience of my entire life. Dying taught me more about living than anything else has. There was no pain, fear, or even sensing a transition. I was immediately in another place. I continued without missing a beat. Death is an illusion. Lesson 1 of many to come. One of the weirdest parts of the experience was that I was ushered into sort of a place between the worlds backwards. I could see what looked like a rough-hewn stone passageway, and the curtains from my room were at the end. I noticed that I had no body anymore, but I was a sphere or a bubble of sorts. My new formed orb self didn't have to breathe, had no heartbeat, no limbs, but more importantly, no sickness. I felt robustly healthy, more than I had ever been. As strange as this experience was, there was a conspicuous lack of fear. Oh, so different from the paranoia and the copper poisoning. I sensed that I was being turned to look to my left because there was business to attend to. I was being guided, directed by a male presence. If we all had bodies, I would have to say he had his hands on my shoulders. Let it suffice to say that his force was upon me. I just went wherever he led. There was a stack of magnificent Victorian picture frames, which we commenced to go through. I saw scenes from my life that were actually moving, kind of like the pictures in the Star Wars movies. Boring. My life up to that point had been nauseatingly mundane and meaningless. Even the vignettes were all faded out and rather indistinct, just like those 70s posters that had hung in the sun too long. My life review was one big zero. I had allowed my fears to rule me, so I never had the courage to really make a difference. I was floated up to the right, and immediately I heard the most beautiful music that I had ever heard. I can see why people think that heaven is filled with angels and playing harps. It was like liquid silver undulating all around us in a composition that was extremely complex, but was simply executed. Ravishingly exquisite. Remember, I'm a musician. A few years ago, I happened to hear about somebody else's near-death experience, NDE, and they stated that it was the song of the flowers. That really resonated with me. I sensed that my guide and I were not alone. I was not allowed to turn around to see, but I could sense beyond seeing that there was quite a multitude behind us who loved in an overwhelming and pure manner, the like of which I had never felt. I bathed in pure love. Sadly, only the animals had ever treated me that way before. I then heard my first and last words in this realm. Do not turn around. If you see, you will not want to go back. There is more work for you to do. Whoosh! As if I was in a celestial water slide, I was borne away by a powerful force towards and through the tunnel. The curtains of my room seemed to rush at me, and I was plopped back into my body. What just happened? Am I hallucinating? Am I crazy? Now, I don't want any of my friends to answer that one in the comments, okay? Thank you. Truly, what did just happen? You better believe that I sat on this one. I mean, for over 20 years, I said not one word to anyone, ever. In the intervening years, however, I have drawn more than a few stark conclusions. 1, my health made a dramatic recovery from that very hour. My illness had brought me to the brink of death, and I think a little over the edge too. And it taught me these lessons and waved goodbye because its purpose had been served. 2, I lost my fear of death and live every day more mindfully. Interestingly, I had to die before I finally learned how to live. More and more, everything I do serves my life purpose. 3, honey, you wouldn't believe the crap I've been through since then. Really, really terrible stuff. That's why I don't have any hair. Whatever the vicissitudes of life, I like that word, I just wanted to use it. This experience is a daily comfort and a perspectivizer. I hope that's a word. Remember the Ten of Swords? There's this poor guy with all those swords sticking out of his back. Well, look it, the worst has been done. He cannot be hurt anymore. Notice, however, his hands give the same sign of blessing as the Hierophant card. All I have to say is trust the plan. Anyway, you're the one that made it. 4th, the celestial flower music was using the Eastern musical scale. Now, that might not impress you very much, but for me, it's earth-shattering. It proves to me that I didn't make this up. It took me 20 plus years to figure it out after having heard a lecture on the Eastern scale. That's really cool. Almost all of the psychic readings I have given or received have had some sort of confirmation in them like that. The 5th monumental bit of information I have discovered is truly profound. My guide was me from the future. I made it! Hooray! I'm not sure, but I certainly think that he was and is my higher self. I received gifts, certain gifts during my NDE that I didn't understand. But I know a whole lot more now. Our ego can be so arrogant, third-dimensional, and linear. Spirit doesn't ever have to explain anything. Besides, the old ego most likely wouldn't get it anyway. As my old Scottish theology professor said, Brian, some things are better felt than telt. Since I've come out of my restrictive psychic healer medium closet, I have been ridiculed, persecuted, accused of being demon-possessed, loved, appreciated, and blessed. All I know is that I have helped a whole slew of people, and I'm going to continue to do that. Period. Quantum physics states that energy cannot be destroyed. It only changes form. Yeah, it's true. In death, our true essence is never lost. We simply change our form. Heck, I was a bubble. And I know because I've been there. I love you. Namaste.